If you are a fan of the Golden State Warriors, stop everything now, because what was leaked completely changes the way you look at the future of this team. Everyone feels that something doesn't fit anymore, that the cast fights, competes, but that piece that becomes the key in decisive moments always seems to be missing. This frustration hurts because no one wants to see a dynasty gradually disappear, and that's exactly why this information matters so much. It's not empty rumor. It's not social media noise. It is a real movement, discussed behind the scenes, that can correct course, restore hope, and redefine what comes from now on. Stay with me until the end, because understanding this now could change everything you think you know about Warriors. Before moving on, do one quick thing that helps a lot and changes the game here on the channel. Leave a like now, because this makes this video reach more fans who are feeling exactly the same pain as you. Check if you are subscribed and activate the bell, because when this information is confirmed, whoever receives it first understands everything before the rest. And stay with me in the video, because what I'm going to show you now doesn't appear in the headline and explains step by step why this leaked movement could be the turning point that the Golden State needed. It doesn't leave, because the most important part comes now. When I say that this could change everything from now on for the Golden State Warriors, I'm not exaggerating to get your attention. I'm talking about a type of decision that changes the way the team thinks about the present, how it plans the future, and mainly, how it tries to take advantage of what is still most valuable, the real window to compete at a high level. And I want to talk to you about this calmly, because there are details that go unnoticed when we only see the headline, and these details explain why the next steps can be decisive. Think with me. The entire league lives off signals. It's not just statements in interviews or rumors that appear on social media accounts. Sometimes the strongest signal comes from something simple, almost silent, that happens in an ordinary, regular season game. And that was exactly where, for many people, the warning bells should have sounded loud and clear. The Warriors were in Chicago on a night when everything indicated a perfect scenario to rotate the squad, give minutes to those who need it, test combinations, and reinforce confidence. Large victory, controlled game, that context in which the coach normally takes advantage to distribute opportunities and consolidate the group's chemistry. Only, instead, something happened that doesn't suit this type of match. Something happened that cannot be explained with, "It was just a choice of the moment," and that, when we put the pieces together, seems much more like an internal message than a casual decision. A player who has been scoring in double digits, who should be in the rotation with a constant presence, who just signed a multi-million contract extension, didn't take the court for even a second. Nothing. Not even that final minute when the game is already resolved and the entire bench buys time. And before anyone thinks, "Oh, I was injured," it wasn't an injury. It wasn't an illness. It wasn't a personal issue. It was a technical decision. It was the kind of, "You're not going to play today," that, in the NBA, rarely happens without a story behind it. The name is Jonathan Kuminga, and what is happening around him today has become one of the most delicate and complex narratives for the Warriors. Delicate because it involves a young talent with real potential and a recent financial investment. Complex because it's not just about numbers, it's not just about points per game. It's about fit, trust, short-term priority, and ultimately, what the organization believes it needs to win now. To understand why this is happening, we have to go back a little. Kuminga was the 7th pick in the 2021 draft. A rare athlete, elite physique, explosion, ability to mark more than one position, and that ceiling that makes any scouting department dream. When he arrived in the Golden State, the expectation was clear. He didn't need to be perfect right away, but he needed to evolve with patience, because the reward could be enormous. And throughout the first seasons, the truth is that we saw both sides of this promise. There were games in which he seemed unstoppable, attacking the rim with strength, using his body, defending with energy, showing that he could be an above-average player. On nights like this, fans would look and think, "That's it. This is where the next jump is coming from." But there were also nights when he seemed disconnected from what the team was asking for. Rushed choices, delayed reading, moments when the ball and positioning were not at the same pace as the rest of the group. This roller coaster became the hallmark of his time in the Warriors, and this is where the main conflict arises. Golden State is not a team under reconstruction, with infinite time to make mistakes and test. Golden State has experienced years of real title contention, and when you have Stephen Curry playing at a high level, the priority changes. You can't put development above results every night. You can't accept repeated mistakes in games that are worth classification, seeding, confidence, and the type of consistency that separates a contender from an average team. So there's that tension that you must have already felt as a fan. On the one hand, the desire to see the young person grow, make mistakes, learn and become a star. On the other, the urgency of winning, of not wasting seasons, of not looking back and thinking, we had the chance and let it slip away. Kuminga stood in the center of this stretched rope. Last summer, this scenario reached a critical point. He was nearing the end of his rookie contract, and the extension became a big topic. On his side, there was a demand for commitment. Money, yes, but also paper, minutes, responsibility. On the franchise's side, there was the inevitable question, has he already shown enough to receive this type of bet without restrictions? And while this was happening, there was another element that many people didn't notice at the time. Other teams were watching like someone seeing a door ajar. Because when a young man with talent and physique like his appears to be at an impasse, the market moves. And two teams in particular placed themselves more aggressively on this radar: Sacramento Kings and Phoenix Suns. In the case of Phoenix, the story didn't even begin in the summer. Before that, there were already old conversations, bigger scenarios, those negotiations that circulate at deadline times and that involve giant names. Kuminga appeared more than once as a valuable piece in a possible exchange. Even without anything materializing, this type of talk leaves a mark. It shows that the league sees him as an asset that could be worth something important. The Kings also saw an interesting fit in him, someone who could fill specific needs and raise the athletic level of the squad. And when two teams return to the table with insistence, it is no coincidence. It is because there is a conviction that, in another context, the player can perform more than he does where he is. Then, just before the season started, came the announcement that seemed to end the matter. Kuminga and Warriors agreed on a 2-year extension, worth $48.5 million. On paper, it seemed like the end of the drama. The team signaling he is part of our path, and the player signaling I stay and continue building here. But paper doesn't always solve what's underneath. Sometimes the contract just pushes the question to later. What is his real place within this team? When the season started, his numbers weren't disastrous. 12.4 points, 6.3 rebounds, about 25.6 minutes per game in 17 games. It's production. It is presence. But there is one detail that matters. For a salary of around $22.5 million, the expectation is that the player is steadily climbing the ladder, gaining space consistently, being a reliable part of the plan. And what has appeared is the opposite. The minutes vary too much, the role changes, and the feeling is that, at certain moments, the coaching staff still doesn't trust him in specific situations. And this is the kind of thing that, in a squad that wants to win now, becomes a serious problem. Because it's not just about he played well today. It's about, will the coach call his name when the game gets tight? It's about, will he be on the court in the fourth quarter? It's about, does he maintain tactical discipline when the opponent changes strategy? Big money with uncertain paper always creates noise, and noise in a team that needs stability turns into pressure. To complicate matters, in mid-November, he was out for just over 2 weeks with knee tendonitis. Injuries happen. But this period opened a testing window for the Warriors. The team changed rotations, tried combinations, found alternatives, and according to what many people read, it worked. The ball ran better in some sections, the spacing became clearer, other players filled spaces. It's not saying the team is better without him, as an absolute truth, but it's saying that, without him, the team found a path that seemed more natural to what the coach wants. When he returned, the task was to reintegrate someone into a system that, at that time, was already working differently. And reintegration is not always simple. Sometimes it means taking minutes away from someone who has adapted, changing the dynamics of someone who was comfortable, changing the rhythm of attack and defense. And if the returning player doesn't deliver immediate consistency, the coach tends to tighten the screw. This is where the story starts to get tougher. And then comes the point that is changing everything today. There are reports from sources considered reliable indicating that the Warriors should discuss trades involving Jonathan Kuminga when he becomes eligible to be traded, starting January 15th. This date is not random. Those who sign an extension in the offseason, need to wait a period before they can be traded. And January 15th is exactly the line on the calendar that teams mark when they are preparing moves. Until then, there is an evaluation window, 16 games approximately, for the organization to make a decision with conviction. And here's where I want you to understand the weight of the moment. It's not just deciding whether you like the player or not. It's deciding whether it's part of the long-term plan or whether it becomes the main part of bringing in someone to help now. Because his contract, in practice, is a key. $22.5 million is a number that helps in negotiations. Allows you to adjust salaries, build packages, open up possibilities, and the front office knows it. If the goal is to find upgrades in the squad, a contract of this size, with a player who still has market value, is a powerful tool. This need not be read as, they gave up on him. Can be read as, the window to win is short, and his value may be greater in a trade than on the court, the way things are today. And if you're a fan, I know this is a difficult conversation because it involves hope and emotional investment. But the NBA often forces franchises to choose what hurts less, keeping the promise and risking wasting time, or turning the promise into an asset to immediately strengthen the team. And who is on the other side of this story? Again, Phoenix and Sacramento continue to appear as the strongest interested parties. Phoenix, for example, lives in a scenario where he has top talent with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, but is still looking for that additional piece to consolidate a serious fight path. It is a team that can look at Kuminga and imagine, here, with another coach, with another role, he can become a versatile physical forward who defends and also helps in the attack without needing to monopolize the ball. Phoenix has a new coach, Jordan Aw, and there is a belief that he can extract more consistency from him. From the Suns' point of view, Kuminga would be a big, athletic body who can change markings, create difficult matchups, and provide options in playoffs, where versatile wingers are worth their weight in gold. The problem, of course, is the price. Building package is always where things get stuck. There are names that make sense in terms of the Warriors' salary and needs, such as Royce O'Neal and Nick Richards, but this type of offer, from what is said, has been on the table before and has not progressed. So, if Phoenix really wants it, it may need to improve the proposal. However, improving the proposal means changing parts that Phoenix also considers valuable. An example that always comes up is Grayson Allen, a role player who fits very well, shoots, helps with space, and has value in a contending team. And changing someone like that is not simple because the opportunity cost is large. Furthermore, Phoenix's direction tends to be cautious. After years in which the franchise spent assets and depth on large moves, there is natural care not to empty the rotation even further due to a bet that, despite being talented, still carries inconsistency. On the Warriors' side, there is another requirement. They are not just looking for draft picks and projects. The team is in winning mode now, and that changes everything because it limits the type of return that makes sense. The logic is simple. If you are going to move a young person with a high ceiling, you need immediate help, someone who comes in and contributes without a long adaptation curve, someone the coach trusts, who fits into the system and who reduces the number of nights the team gets stuck in predictable problems. Sacramento also has an interesting profile because it has young people, it has veterans, it has rotation pieces, and in theory, it can put together packages that attract attention. But again, the challenge is the same. The package needs to truly elevate the Warriors, not just move names for the sake of moving them. And here comes the question that I ask you as if we were talking face-to-face. Is it worth exchanging Kuminga for anything just to say that you made an exchange? Of course, this is the kind of mistake that costs seasons. My reading is that a change only makes sense if the return improves the team in specific areas: consistency, fit, decision-making, defense in big moments, spacing in attack, presence of a player that the coach does not hesitate to use when the game is 2 points away, with 3 minutes remaining. If the exchange doesn't deliver this, it becomes just a noisy movement that doesn't solve the fans' main pain. And speaking of pain, I know exactly what it feels like for anyone who follows this team. It's seeing nights where everything seems possible and suddenly seeing nights where the attack stalls, the rotation doesn't fit, the energy fluctuates, and you're left with the impression that there's a clear piece missing, an adjustment that provides predictability. The pain is not losing a game. The pain is feeling that the team, as it is, can get stuck in the middle of the road, too good to give up, too unstable to trust until the end. That's why this period between now and mid-January is so heavy, because it is a kind of silent judgment. If Kuminga returns and game after game shows consistency, reading fit, confidence in the coach, he can force the narrative to change. He can make the coaching staff say, okay, now we can really build with him. But if the situation remains the same, with uncertain minutes and strange signs, the probability of the front office treating the exchange as a real path increases. And then we return to the starting point, that game in Chicago, the victory, and the decision not to put it on the court. When a player with a high salary and status as an important player becomes a healthy scratch on a night like this, the message is clear. It could be a message of demand. It could be a message of discipline. It could be a message of, you need to do better to play. But it could also be a message that patience is waning and that the organization is already looking at alternatives. Whatever the exact reason, what matters to us as fans and those watching behind the scenes is understanding the impact. This is the kind of situation that accelerates conversations, speeds up phone calls, accelerates scenarios. Because in the NBA, when the market realizes that a big name may be available, teams test limits. And when they realize there is an eligibility date coming up, they start preparing proposals in advance. Now, I really want to hear from you because this isn't just cold analysis. Would you prefer the team to bet on Kuminga and try to get the jump from him that everyone imagined? Or do you think that, with the current window, the smartest thing is to transform this contract into a way to bring in someone who is a better fit and helps immediately? And, if it is to exchange, what would you consider a fair return? A versatile defender? A consistent spin scorer? More depth? Someone who solves a specific problem? Because in the end, the decision that comes will say a lot about the identity of the Warriors from now on. It will tell you whether the franchise still believes it can develop from within despite the urgency to win, or whether it will accept that the best way to protect the window is to make a tough move, one that divides opinions, but that can change the history of a season. If you want to follow this step by step, with quick updates when something actually happens, and with analysis that goes beyond the noise, then do the following. Leave a like now, because this helps the video reach more fans who are trying to understand what is behind these decisions. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because when conversations progress and information appears, you will want to receive it first, before the narrative becomes just another rumor. And stay with me in the video, because from here we can get into the scenarios that make sense, the types of packages that the market usually accepts, and what, realistically, can transform this squad into something more dangerous for the rest of the conference. And now I want you to stop for a second and realize the size of what is at stake here. This isn't just about a name, it's not just about a rotation, it's not just about an isolated game. It's about deciding whether the Warriors will insist on a bet that still fluctuates or whether they will transform this asset into a piece that fits better and helps them win now. And when a franchise reaches that point, the difference between being right and wrong doesn't just change 1 week of the season, it changes years. Because a well-made change can unlock the attack, give consistency to the bench, strengthen the defense in the decisive minutes, and return that feeling of control that every fan misses when the game gets tough. But if the decision is too slow, or made the wrong way, the team may miss the best opportunity to adjust course before the most important moment. So do the following. Comment below what you would do. Would you change Kuminga, or would you hold on and bet on his jump? And if it were an exchange, what return would be acceptable to you, really? I'm going to read everything, because this isn't just news, it's a community debate. It's fans thinking together. And now, if you want to stay up to date without missing any updates, click on the pinned comment and go straight to the Golden State Warriors News Today playlist. Everything is organized there in sequence with the most important news and analysis so you can understand each piece of this puzzle and follow this story from start to finish. And now take advantage. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell. Because when this situation becomes a real movement, you will want to be one of the first to know.